Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Pieces guest speaker series. Today's guest is just completed her first year at Osgoode Law School, and she is a licensed paralegal as well, and involved and founded the Lions Club, which is coming up in about 6 weeks, I think. So thank you so much, Jen Lorestani, for joining us here on Justice and Pieces.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat to students, especially paralegal students who might be interested in law school.
All right, perfect. So let's start right there with that and tell a little bit about where you got your interest in law, as well as making that journey from being a paralegal student and going now into law school.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a kid, I've always wanted to do law. I kind of had a few hiccups along the way, wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do at some point. Thankfully, I kind of found my way through the paralegal program, and I fell in love with the program. I was at Seneca College, absolutely loved it. Loved the faculty at Seneca. I kind of really found my calling through the program. There was a lot of commitment to the students as well. And yeah, when I finished the program, I remember a lot of my professors just telling me, just keep going. So I went and did my undergrad and then went off to law school.
So did you kind of have that idea when you went to what kind of got you into going to Seneca to start with? And was there always I wanted to go to law school in the back of your mind, or did that kind of come up in school?
No, I think I always wanted to go to law school. I just needed a bit of a push. I was in a pretty bad spot a few years ago when I was in my early 20s, I would say. And my parents actually were the ones who were pressuring me. They thought of me as a little couch potato at home who basically would do nothing. I was working a lot. I was working a lot of part-time jobs, or even, I worked in retail, I worked in fast food. And they just wanted me to get something. I just remember my parents telling me, just get something, anything, do the paralegal program. It's law related. And, if you don't want to go to law school, that's okay. At least you have something in the law you're interested in. And I just kind of wanted to get them off my back. So I agreed. And I am so happy to this day that they did that, because I mean, years later, I'm doing something I truly love. And yeah, I wouldn't be where I am without my parents, for sure.
Now, what was it like then after completing, I think it's a 2-year program at Seneca, and then saying, okay, well, to go to law school, I got to do another 3 years in undergraduate, and then I can apply. So what was kind of like making that decision as to sitting, whether just with your paralegal license or going on for more school?
Yeah, so I actually had a little bit of trouble. My grades were really good in the paralegal program. I just couldn't find work. I tried a lot to find work. I just couldn't. I don't know if I was just blowing my interviews. I have no idea what was wrong. It could have very well been my interview skills at the time. And I remember just trying to come up with a bit of an alternative. My professors again were really urging me to keep going, and it was a bit of a hard thing to do, because with respect to at least on the undergrad side, I had already attempted it once when I was 19, 20 years old, and it was very unsuccessful because I wasn't driven and I didn't have that discipline. So I decided to make another attempt at it. I was like, well, let me try out let me just see if I can do it again. And when I went in for my second time in 2016 to attempt my undergrad again, I did a lot better. And I think it was a lot of those soft skills that I learned in the paralegal program, because it's very intense. You've got, 7 courses each semester, is a set schedule. It's a lot of readings. It's a lot of material to cover. I did moot, in addition to obviously the program. I had some extracurriculars. So you have to be very disciplined. And then, your exam period, I don't know how the other colleges are, but they're spread across a week. And it's, maybe on the Monday you have one exam, but the Tuesday you have an exam at 9 a.m. and then 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So it takes a lot of, you learn a lot of skills through that process. So when I went into my first year, I found it a lot easier than the paralegal program. Tedious to write essays and all that stuff. But my writing skills were really strong when I walked in. Just overall, I was a really good student. So I think there's definitely a benefit from going from a paralegal student to the undergraduate side, for sure.
And I think I did touch on it, but you did go and get your paralegal license in the interim as well.
I did. Yeah, that was pretty tough. I got my license, or I did my exam October 2016. It was my second month of my undergrad. That was incredibly difficult. I had to start as soon as I effectively got the book from the Law Society, or it was I think it was LSAC. So I started tabbing, highlighting right away. I started my color coding system. I started indexing. I started my table of contents, everything, just to get it all organized. And I spent just a few weeks leading up to it, just reviewing the material, making sure I really knew where things were. Um, when I wrote actually the exam, it was pretty brutal. I had a really bad fever. I got really sick about 2 days before, and I walked in. I remember the fever was so bad. I think I was like hallucinating. And I remember the proctor coming up to me it was at the Care Center, and she was like, "I think you should go home." And I'm like, "No, I'm going to get through this." And after the exam was done, I just sat there, remember thinking to myself, like, I'm going to have to rewrite. Like, I have no idea what just happened. And thankfully, I passed. So I tell everyone, I'm like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. That's for sure. You didn't have that uphill battle like I did.
So while you were in an undergrad, now you have the paralegal license. Did you kind of do any work like in summers or part time during school, like legal related, or were you kind of focusing on, I got to do better with the second sort of attempt that I have at getting my grades up so I can apply to law school, or what was your plan at that point?
Yeah, so I did some process serving actually. So it wasn't I didn't do actually any real legal work. I can't recall doing much. I did some promotional modeling, some brand ambassador work, very part-time, very, it was good for me as well because I was still trying to kind of walk through, engage with this new concept of undergraduate studies. So I didn't want anything crazy, but I still needed money. So I was doing things like part-time, very flexible on my own hours. Um, so I didn't actually do much with my paralegal license per se, like in practice, like in the field. But I was still, I was coaching moot teams, so I was extremely involved at the extracurricular level. Um, I think that's about it. But all of those, again, those skills really worked towards, again, the coaching side of moot. It also helped with my paper writing skills. I did really well on papers, on essays, you name it. Like I was just really a strong writer. And these are, again, skills that you're taught as a paralegal. As a paralegal student at the college level. So I always say, like, don't think that you're never going to use them, because in fact, it will come very much in handy.
So let's talk about the mooting, and you've achieved quite a bit of success both as a mooter and a coach over the years. I think going all the way back to 2016 there, and I think your team is still the only college team to win the Osgood Cup there, the undergraduate or mainly undergraduate competition. So maybe you could tell us a bit about everything in terms of mooting, first from getting involved with it at the college level, and I think. Even at the Learners Cup, I believe you did well there, if not to win a Distinguished Oralist Award, and then compare it with coaching, right? I mean, and there's that aspect, and the third aspect, of course, is organizing a moot, right? Co-founding the Lions Cup there, and maybe you can hit on all three of those things there, and stress to my students here the importance of doing things like mooting and mock trials and any opportunity to practice advocacy.
Oh, I want to, yeah, I definitely want to echo that. I think mooting, I tell everyone, even like law school students, when there's optional moots, I'm like, do it, absolutely 100% do it. It's one of those things that, again, these skills, they move on to other areas. So I know as a competitor, when I did Aussie Cup in 2016, I actually did a moot before that. There used to be a moot called Paralegal Cup. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but there was that competition. That was the first one I competed at. It was through Seneca, and I actually initially didn't make the team. I was an alternate, so I blew my tryout. There was no question about it. It was not good. But I was really happy to be selected as an kind of like an alternate, but more so like a coordinator. So I helped them craft their submissions. I really helped the students through the process, but I didn't really make my own submissions. So 9 days before that tournament, when one of the girls ended up dropping out, she had told her coaches, "Oh, Jen's going to take over," and I hadn't agreed to that at all. So I went to my coach crying. I'm like, "I can't do this. Like, I'm not made for this. Like, please don't make me do this." And she had a lot of faith in me. And it was great because 9 days later, we went to that paralegal cup and we finished second place. And it was after like 9 days of preparing. Everyone had 6 weeks, and I was like, "Hey, I think I actually might have a knack for this." So, Osgood Cup, I did make the team thanks to the performance at Paralegal Cup, not thanks to my second tryout because I also blew that one. And that was a huge shock. The Osgood Cup one. I didn't walk in thinking we were even going to advance. We're paralegal students at the end of the day, and I knew we are going up against these big bad, universities that you hear about. Like, they come in like powerhouses. Like, it's very intimidating. And I'm just like this little old paralegal student, no undergrad, effectively no experience. So when we went in, we just kind of went in with this idea that, we're going to do the best that we can and just like make sure that we represent our school really well. And when we just kept advancing and advancing and advancing, like it started to taste a little bit sweeter as we went on. But when we got to that final round, I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, you know what, I'm just happy to be here. This is awesome. So when we won, that was just incredible, right? I remember seeing the articles, the first college team, paralegal college team to ever win. And it was great for us. I know my partner went on to do great things for herself, and it opened up, I think, a lot of doors for me. So for students who are interested in just even like networking job opportunities that can come out, Diamond and Diamond, that job I got because the head of commercial civil litigation, lawyer there, was my judge at the Paralegal Cup in 2015. And last year he reached out to me asking me if I could or was it 2 years ago, asked me to fill a vacancy in his department. So these things, they come full circle for students. So I always encourage them, like, go and do it. You never know who you're going to meet. Go out and do it. So that's on the competitor side. Coaching, it's way harder. I will say that. You're prepping the material that you're going to teach the students, right? So I definitely went back to my old coaches, and I would just tell them all the time, thank you for the work that you put in, because I see it now. It's really hard. And John Paul, I believe you coach your team, is that right?
Yeah, we just started really getting more involved in the last few months. So there was like a recent mock trial that I was coaching, and it was a lot of having them practice and tell them, do this again, fix this up. Here's what people would be looking for, or if you're doing cross-examination. I know in a moot you're not going to be doing it, but in a mock trial you would. So kind of focus on some of the things there. And then with the moots, actually you were a judge for one of my teams there, and I remember afterwards they were sharing like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting all of that," and I said, "Well, that's a good." Because it's a lot better than if you're just talking and no one's going to be asking you questions. And I think that hopefully the next time, hopefully for the Lions Cup, they're a lot more ready for that rapid fire from the bench, because you don't expect that 30 seconds in there's going to be a question about substantive law. And I think you had to argue that. So maybe you were one of the few judges that knew that case inside and out. But
I did.
It's really important, right? I think for students to know how to respond to that, because if you're getting into this profession, that's what it's going to be like one day.
Yeah, I think that I remember just having that experience at my moots where it was just rapid fire. I couldn't breathe. I remember it was in my quarterfinals at Osgood, and a judge, I think I said, "Good afternoon, honorable justices. My name is Counsel." And I was caught up completely off guard. I'm like, can I introduce myself? Like, I didn't, of course, say that. I just humbly accepted the question. And yeah, I mean, it's not one of those things that I do during questioning where like, I want to like trip up the student by any means. I'm trying to challenge them and make them think. And I don't dock if they're in deer in headlights, especially if they've never seen me before. That's not the point of it. It's to just have that conversation. And I find that students in moots, when I can get them off the script and I don't let them read, they just have to think on their feet, they do so much better. So that's actually the best way for them to gain points, because usually if they're reading, it's a cold bench. It's, 7 to 10 minutes of reading and it's just one question. That's no fun for the student. They're not able to demonstrate actually like what they know. And I think a lot of the students will surprise themselves if they get a question they didn't really anticipate, and they can use all of that knowledge that they know of the case and really come up with a more unique abstract answer that, and it'll blow away the judges.
Yeah, I think that's important because a lot of times that I mean, and even in the in class sort of in school sort of moots and mock trials and whatever we have, that everyone is so using a script as kind of a crutch, right? And I think even when you go on to practice, I think lawyers and paralegals, when they first get up in court, that they want something prepared, and then the witness or the judge kind of throws them off track, and then you have like that deer in the headlights moment. But the more you get practice with that, the better you get at thinking on your feet. And that's really one of the strongest points of oral advocacy, right? Is being able to be able to give those responses, and sooner or later you'll understand the importance of maybe having a few point notes there rather than having that script in front of you, because you don't need it, right? And I think that's what mooting certainly teaches you, is to have your points and practice and prepare, but be ready to kind of deviate from whatever it is you think you're going to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell students, I think even in our Lions Cup packages, we say like, your notes are a prompt at best. I believe that's the exact wording that we have there. And I agree with that. And I will say, and I know because I'm sure some of my MOOC partners might be watching this and they're thinking in their heads, Jen, you're such a liar. I have a script. Now, to be fair, I don't read off of it. I have a theater background. So I have to build my script. I have all my authorities, and then I just memorize it. And that comes from theater experience. So a lot of theater students I know do that, and it's a really smart strategy for us. But generally speaking, it's best to just have point forms. I mean, I walk in kind of with like 20 to 30 pages, but memorized. And, when I'm in a mood, you will barely catch me looking at my notes, just because I know the material well enough. But I mean, point form is definitely the best way to go.
How about that? I know obviously the Lions Cup last year and this year is going to be done virtually, and certainly a lot of the competitions this year, the Osgood Cup this year, I believe that you were coaching in and coached very successfully.
I did.
Was done virtually. So what did you tell your students about preparing for a moot in a virtual environment versus, when you did the Osgood Cup in person? I mean, it's a whole different story. I mean, every lawyer I've had in here that's in court, we talk about, well, what's the difference about being in court virtually and being in court in person, and everyone has their pros and cons to it. Well, what do you think? What did you share with your students about being ready for that, and what challenges organizing the Lions Cup, or I mean, some advantages? I think you get a lot more people competing from far away than normal, but what have you seen in that regard?
I think so. It was definitely like, it's a huge challenge for me because I've been coaching for years in person, and there's all these like little like techniques and tips and tricks I have that I was able to use fully for the in-person sort of venue of a moot. You can't do that on the virtual sense. I even had challenges competing at moots this year. It's, where it can still look like you're reading even if you're not, but then even if you're reading, it might look like you're not reading. There's so many challenges, so many different things that can go wrong in and around because of the virtual nature of the moot. So there's just a few things. I know with our team, I specifically told them, center your Zoom window, and which is currently what I have it at right now. Don't have your notes. Like, you should know your material well enough that you don't need it. Just keep like a few point forms like on the side, just to make sure you're following along. Otherwise, Zoom window, I have it completely effectively centered, justified, and just look just under the camera hole. That's where I kind of find my sweet spot. And it just keep your eye positioned on a specific object on that screen, and don't shift, so it doesn't look like you're actually reading, so they can see like you're maintaining your eye contact. Otherwise, I mean, It's really trying to also gauge over camera if the judge is accepting what you're saying, because usually they have some sort of body language like indicators. I tend to hide mine as a judge. I just look like I'm not accepting any argument, and in fact, I'm accepting it all. I just have this face. I kind of put on a little character, but the judges generally, for the most part, it's through body language, and you only get to see now, unfortunately, like just this all the way up. So you just have to be really paying very, very close attention to that. Um, when you're in a physical mood, for example, if you have a panel, like let's say you're in quarters or semis, you usually have like 5 to 7 judges in the room, and you want to give them all eye contact, kind of make sure everyone knows that you're engaged with them while they're engaged with you. You can't really do that in the virtual setting. So again, having that focus towards a particular place on the screen it's going to, because you're not going to be swaying back and forth. And it actually it's really bad to do, I think, because it just looks like you're distracted. That's what it looks like to me. And I know a lot of students make that mistake. So I'm just like, you know what? They can't tell that what you're doing is looking at all the judges. So just focus on the one spot close to the whole of the camera, and to all of them, it'll look like you are talking to them directly.
So maybe tell us a little bit about the Lions Cup this year. I know you're still in kind of an advisory type of role now, and when it's happening, and certainly share the information for if anyone can register and where they can do so. I know they missed the early bird deadline, so it's going to cost me probably $10 more now. But
yeah,
what's going on?
So for Lions Cup this year, it's the competition is on June 26th and June 27th, so Saturday and Sunday. It's over Zoom. Last year was on Google Meet, so we decided to change that. We really like the breakout function over Zoom, so we decided to do that. We'll have to pay a little bit more, but we thought it was worth it. So that's what we decided to do there. The early bird registration did finish last week, Friday. So a lot of those incentives are gone, but honestly, I think given the awards that we provide to the students, most of these tournaments do like trophies and plaques and medallions, and it's very, I don't want to say material, or materialistic, and it's just, basically a conversation piece for your apartment or whatever it may be. We provide a little bit more. So, our top advocate of our tournament gets a, $2,500 LSAT prep course paid for in full. And that's, when we started this tournament a few years ago, our whole goal was to provide access into the legal profession, just a little bit more than just your tangible these effective trophies and gold things that you can put up in your room. So, that Kaplan Award, that LSAT prep course actually helps students get to where they need to go. We also do raffles for textbooks as well, and that's still open for general admission. So you do get a raffle ticket. I think we do an online raffle kind of thing for the raffle for the digital nature of our tournaments this year. And also, I believe this year we're working towards it. I'm trying to confirm. We haven't released any details about it yet, but what we're working to do is at least give the top 8 teams these workbooks, these LSAT workbooks. I think they cost around like $10 to $15 each, and we're working to get those books for the students who do move on, as also in addition to their medallions and their plaques and whatnot. And we've added a few more awards this year in relation to a policy award, which is named after Jordana Goldlist. We've also added 3 separate categories of awards for the the student with the highest legal argument score, the student with the highest professionalism score, and the student with the highest oral advocacy score. I think, did I say oral? Legal argument, professionalism, and oral advocacy. So this year we've added a few more just to give students, it's really tough to do a moot online, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So we wanted to ensure that we're giving students, the recognition effectively that they deserve for the work that they're doing.
Perhaps maybe before I forget later on, where can they register? I guess there's a website. There's a few other things there.
Yes, there is. It's lionscup.ca. And then you can go to just there's a registration button right at the top there. It's for judge and volunteers and then competitor registration. You just click on the link. There's all the eligibility requirements. Most people are eligible. as long as you're not like a paralegal or a lawyer or law school student attempting to moot at this tournament. It's only open to undergraduate students. Master's students and PhD students can compete as well, actually, but you can't be a master's student or PhD student in law. Of course, that's the bar. And then, yeah, college students, paralegals. I think that's about it. Yeah, no, just no paralegals, no lawyers, no law school students.
Perfect. So definitely, I think I see in my chat here that Paula is ready to have another crack at it. She's remember, she's probably there got some nightmares from you being her judge.
Oh
there,
no, no. I honestly, I genuinely feel bad, but what I'm hoping that they get out of it is like that they're having a good time. They get to demonstrate their knowledge. It's tough, but I mean, I have to go into character. If I'm like this in a mood and I start judging like this, no one's going to take me seriously. I don't think.
That's about the experience, right? And I think that's what I shared with them is that now that you know kind of what more to expect from being ready for to be ready for kinds of questions like that, it's going to help you in the long run. So, I mean, that's really what as much as you have trophies and all these amazing prizes here for students, the end goal is either for the undergraduate students, maybe they were thinking about going to law school and get better prepared for that. But ultimately, if you want to be a paralegal or a lawyer in the long run, you want to have some more preparation while you can as students. But you can make those mistakes today. I mean, if you had a client and you did that might result in a complaint to the Law Society or something. Right. So you don't want to be making them in the future. So learn today so you can be better tomorrow.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I honestly, I still think that the students do so well with what they've got as, I am pushing their buttons a little bit. But generally speaking, nobody comes in and says anything wrong, in my opinion, at all. It just, I'm just trying to push their limits and trying to push them to those bounds and get them thinking a little bit more. Because, sometimes in one moot, you realize, oh, I totally missed the ball on this one particular area that I should have focused on more. And you go into the second, your next moot and you outperform everyone because you've learned from those mistakes. And at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter, if you, I had a really bad moot in January, and I had the judge honestly really disliked me, disliked my style, disliked everything that effectively came out of my mouth. And you gotta bow down a little bit and just move on, but you don't let it, kill that drive and that determination to do well. It hurt me for a few days. I did question my abilities a little bit, but I got back on it. I'm like, you know what? That was one judge, Jen. Move on. It humbled me a little bit. But it's one of those things, like, don't let it get you down. Just keep going. You've got to learn from these experiences, and don't let it kill you.
So speaking of January in this last year, let's talk about Osgood and your first year. I see, like I told you this when you were judging, it looks exactly like the furniture when I was at Osgood in 2006. It very well probably is. Hopefully they've done a good cleaning job there, but at Passy, or Owl's Nest or whatever it's called, Osgood Commons, I think.
Osgood Chambers.
Osgood Chambers, yeah. So it was, I don't know if you were too young for the OC. But I think it was the dean at the time wanted to be like, oh, I want to be hip. There's the OC show there. Let's try to. It's you can probably Google it there. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or something, but I think that was sort of the background for it. But what was it like? Now you go, you had this journey. We were talking about this incredible journey going from paralegal college, going back into undergrad, doing really well on the LSATs and completing your program, and now you get accepted into the Osgood, and it's like logging into Zoom like we're doing here every day. What was that like? And you finished your first year, and congratulations for that. And what was it like?
Like I said, I've always wanted to come to Osgood, and I was really excited to spend my days in the halls. I actually, when I was at York, I know students would go to the Osgood library and because they wanted to feel like they were a law school student. And I told myself I would never do that. I'm like, I really want to work to be there. Like my first day in that library, I want to be like, I'm here and I deserve to be here. So I never went. And then the pandemic happened and I lost that opportunity. There were a few times, thankfully, the library was open and I got to experience that, but not the way that I'm supposed to, or anyone should be experiencing law school, really. Um, it was a big adjustment. I'm really used to, for example, taking handwritten notes, being in a physical classroom. I'm a keener. I sit at the front and middle, that's me. I couldn't do that, right? That was all gone. It was really hard to take handwritten notes with the computer here and trying to watch the computer. So I had to adjust to typing up my notes. And that was a big change. Meeting people was really difficult. You know, being everyone kind of wants to participate in class and get that attention from the professor, and that became also really difficult. I know a lot of students had expressed like it was very challenging, and we have this hand raise button that we're looking for, and then there's like a lineup of 10 people on the side here with their hands raised, and you're like, well, I guess I will not be speaking today. It was really hard. I know the first semester for a lot of us, we really struggled. Come second semester, got a little bit better in terms of just adapting to this new environment that we're learning from, but it was harder. The second semester just substantively was more difficult. But yeah, I think the adjustment period, it took a little while, but we all got used to it. And in fact, I don't mind it too much now.
Yeah, I think no, some I certainly say our chat is like quite lit there, because people can't talk always over. We have 30 people in a class, so you have the same problem with the 10 hands, but people are sharing all sorts of things in there, and I found that really where you see a lot of response that you wouldn't in class, right? I mean, that's the one big pro is that you'd be afraid. I remember when I was in law school that you wouldn't want to put your hand up and people like, well, I paid $15,000 a year. I don't want to listen to you, JP, ask a question here. I want to hear from Professor Haig or whatever, right? But but yeah, I did find that there was that element. But what about just, I mean, I was involved in a lot of extracurriculars. How was that kind of like interacting with other students? Certainly at Passy, probably you had an advantage of meeting some people, socially distanced, of course. But
Yeah.
And I'm glad you weren't a snail. I remember that was like a whole thing. For those who don't know, a snail is a student not actually in law school. And in OSGU, we were kind of maybe a little snooty, like, oh, you're a York student. You can't be in my library space. This is my chair. It has my name on it here. Like, go to I can't remember, Scott or whatever it was. Go somewhere else and study there. But what was that like in terms of the social interaction or lack of it, or even in an online capacity, compared to, again, being able to just walk down the halls and they would have the cafeteria and the JCR and all the different clubs and stuff going along? What was that like in your first year?
It was difficult. We thankfully, when orientation had started, it was in August when things were pretty relatively open. So everyone was meeting up outside in the courtyard at Passy, and I found my group of friends. I basically, the people I met the first day, second day we have our little circle now. It's just a few of us, and that's been really nice. I think there definitely was an advantage staying at Passy. I mean, some people would say otherwise, given all of our fire alarms and other things that happen here at Passy, but it's become home. Actually, the fire alarms have become quite therapeutic. And there was an advantage for sure. I do sympathize for those who didn't get that opportunity to meet people in person. I can't imagine what that's even like. I can't imagine sitting at home with my parents trying to do law school over Zoom, not meeting anyone. I think it's so difficult. It was really nice having a community here. I have like specifically, for example, like two really, really, really close friends. And they have been my support system. We're in the same section. We work together. We study together. It's been fantastic, but I have met people over Zoom. I have made friends over Zoom. We do, like, for example, a few wine nights, movie nights with a few friends who are not at Passy. And that's been great as well. And I'm sure once things reopen, we're back in class, I'm going to get a lot closer to these people as well. So it's not like the be all end all just because, you know, you're living at home and you can't meet anyone. I know a ton of people in my class, they've got made their group of friends over Zoom. I see like my social media, they get together and do, you know, little game nights. And I think that's absolutely precious. Like people are really trying to find alternative ways to maintain those connections or create connections and maintain them truly during unprecedented times.
Now you mentioned the difficulty of getting a word in edgewise, maybe in the classroom, but what else did you find in terms of, now you've completed your first year, I don't know if marks are out yet at Osgood, usually takes a couple of weeks there, but
I don't want to see them.
in terms of, I mean, doing, or actually here, maybe this is a better way to frame it, comparing it to paralegal college, right? And how you had the structure. I mean, I know it was semestered as well, and you had the same kind of like exam blocks, but did you find it being different going back into law school now in terms of understanding cases and different areas of law, or did you find that it was kind of you know, your preparation in paralegal school kind of lended yourself really well with what law school was like, or did you have to kind of like unlearn everything and then relearn it as a law student?
I definitely didn't have to unlearn anything from the paralegal program. I mean, there are a few things that have changed in terms of laws and stuff. So like there was a few things I was like caught off guard by. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that even happened. That's new. Otherwise, I think paralegal students who do, like, for example, they go to the undergrad and then do the paralegal and then go to law school, definitely have an edge. They already have that discipline in place. The material's fresh in their mind. There is some overlap. So you do see that at law school, like some of the things that I was learning, I'm like, oh, I already know this. So that was definitely an advantage. Now, it was a disadvantage in the sense that I went from paralegal to undergrad to law school. And it's not because of the discipline. That was all fine. I was able to handle it. It was more so I think it was just the material had changed a little bit. And then, you know, when you go to undergrad, it's not as, I think, stressful that in my humble opinion. Just the exam, even the exam schedules alone were like all over the place. And, you know, in April, I'd go to the Aviva Center to do my exams, and, you know, they were all, you know, I'd have only like 3 finals, for example, and they were all a week or so apart. It was pretty good. And, you know, worth like 30%, 40%. Whereas at law school, it's worth 100%. You're doing a final, it's covering everything. And it's all riding on this like one exam. And that was really difficult to kind of go back into that kind of mentality of having, and the exams are actually much more closer, right? Like they're not all spread apart. Like within a week and a half, you're done all your exams, and the papers are all due at like around the same time. Like they set it up in a way where it's like they're almost not challenging you on the material that you're learning. They're challenging you on your time management skills. And that's something the paralegal programs specifically taught me. And I think I lost a little bit of it in my undergrad. So that was a bit of there was a transition period trying to remember how to balance all those things. But for those who go from paralegal to law school, it's an way easier time.
Now, how we're like doing the 100% exams, or I think 80%, maybe some of them
Right.
in the first year, I don't remember off the top of my head, but what was that like? I mean, I don't know if at Seneca you had something similar or if it was a little less weighted, but basically saying, you know, I'm going to go into this exam tomorrow and it's literally make or break compared to all the time I've been studying and reviewing and doing case briefs and, you know, the FLAC, you know, memos and Iraq and everything there that
Oh
you're
my
doing in law
gosh.
school. And now it comes down to, it's kind of like a moot, right? It comes down to everything's on the table tomorrow. So what was
Moment
that
of
like?
truth. Yeah. It was intimidating. I mean, it's emotionally, it affects you a lot. I know I think in my first semester, I definitely had a hard time going into these exams. I had like really bad panic attacks in the midst of my exam and trying to breathe through that. I will say it's very nice though that nobody can see the panic attack, right? We're doing it on the software called Exemplify, and nobody sees the tear that's coming down my face because I can't issue spot. I see the issue, but I don't exactly know what issue it is. And so that component's quite nice. I think, yeah, the 100% exams were really tough. Even the 80% exams, we had a few that were like 75%, 80%. That was really tough, but you adapt. You have to adapt. And I tried to remind myself that, there's 77 other students in my section in in the same shoes as me, right? So I'm sure what I was feeling, a lot of students were feeling. I know like my friends were feeling the same way too. Like it was brutal. Um, and that's what it's supposed to toughen you. I think that part of it, it's like it's psychological a little bit. And I found that, ultimately at the end, we're on a B curve, right? So 60% of the class walks out with a B, 10-15% walk out with an A, and it all resolves itself out ultimately at the end. I think if you go to class, you do your readings, and you show up to the exams, you're not going to fail. I don't think so. I hopefully not. We'll find out. I'll let you know in a few weeks.
So, I guess, in terms of plans now for the summer, now that you have a summer without law, I mean, besides the Lions Cup there coming
Yeah.
up in the end of June, what are you hoping to do in your first year summer here, and what are your plans, I guess, for the rest of law school and beyond?
Yeah, luckily I secured a summer job through just my network, actually through Moot. That's how I got my summer job. And beyond that, I mean, I decided not to pursue to use my paralegal diploma because I wanted to do appellate litigation, which is, as at the Court of Appeal and eventually at the Supreme Court of Canada. That's the dream. Um, and you can't do that as a paralegal. So that's why I ended up at law school. So I really want to pursue appellate litigation. I really like more of the academic side. I love constitutional law. I love administrative law. I absolutely love it. Most people think it's boring. My friends think I'm nuts, but it's something I truly enjoy. And that's what I'm hoping to pursue. Hopefully, in 20 years time, I'll be at the SCC. Like that's, if I can achieve that, I'm a happy girl.
So now looking back, kind of where you are, I mean, you're partway through that journey there. I mean, when you go back to your mom getting you off the couch and saying it's time to go to get your paralegal diploma there at Seneca, what can you share now with some of my students? I know a few of them are looking at in London and England, that there's a path there rather than go through undergrad and then go to law school here, that you can do things, especially with things being online, that they want to go to law school and get an opportunity to maybe go beyond the scope of paralegals, right? If it's real estate, if it's corporate law, if it's appellate work. What can you share kind of in making that decision after you finish a program, did really well in the program, accomplished so much, to then say, okay, now you've just finished phase one of your journey. You got to do, in your case, phase two being undergrad and not phase three being law school. What can you share with them about continuing on with your education?
Well, continuing on with your education, take a break. Take a break. I took, a few months off. I mean, forcibly because I couldn't find work, but it worked out at the end because I needed that few months off between the paralegal and undergrad to get my wheels moving again. And same thing between even undergrad and law school. I took a year off. I worked, but taking that time off, you need your energy, especially when you're shifting to something new. Even the paralegal, it's pretty, of course there is some overlap. You're going to need you need to walk in with a fresh mind into law school, even on your job prospects and whatever you want to do. I think my other piece of advice here is through this process, it seems like when people talk to me about kind of how I started and where I'm at today, it seems like there was a lot of success, but there was actually a lot of failure. A lot of moments where I broke down. I thought I couldn't do it. I lost job opportunities. I didn't do well on an exam, absolutely blew it. Like there is so many things that have happened through the process. Actually, earlier you said, you did really well on your LSAT. I actually didn't do that great on the LSAT. It was something really bad had happened. And just a few weeks before, it was a family medical thing that had happened. And I absolutely dropped the ball on the LSAT, but thankfully my GPA saved kind of my application. And a lot of law schools kind of disregarded the LSAT score. They're like, okay, like that doesn't make sense, and we'll accept her. So when these bad things happen, because it's never going to just, you're never going to just ride that high for all these years. Bad things are going to happen. There's going to be moments you're going to want to give up. You get too tired. You think you can't do it. And all I can urge students is do not stop. Do not stop. Keep going. Fight through those moments. Take a breather when bad things happen. You still need that moment. You can cry a little bit. I certainly did. Everyone who personally knows me knows I take a day or two to just cry and feel bad for myself, and then I get back up and I keep going, and it's really tough at times, but don't give up on yourself. You probably, not even probably, I would say like almost everyone I know has a lot more potential than they give themselves credit for, so give yourself that credit and keep pushing forward. That's my advice to the students.
Now, in terms of, I mean, it's I think finishing up on Mental Health Week from the Law Society, and certainly this has been quite the challenge. I mean, I think for you in terms of, you have a pandemic, you have Zoom classes, you have 100% exams, and what have you found that, again, everyone's different, but has worked for you in kind of coping with everything that's happening and keeping your mental health in check there? Because for the legal profession generally, I mean, we face a lot of stress going into the profession, and certainly even studying in the profession. And the Law Society has resources like the Member Assistance Program that are available for paralegal and law students. But what have you found that's worked for you, especially at a challenging time where every day is a new curveball, especially in Osgoode?
So this might seem a little maybe mundane, I don't know, but and I find that it works though. So I tell everyone this, and I think, and I swear by it. My first month I wasn't doing this, so I was just kind of wonky in law school. But then I started creating a routine as if I was going physically into the building. Now, it does help that Osgoode is actually physically across the street, but I would get up before class. Hopefully, if it was too early of a class, maybe I wouldn't do it on the first class. But, if I had classes throughout the day, generally I would get up, do my makeup, do my hair as if I would be physically in a class, and then go out for a walk to mimic the idea that I'm going into the law school. So, I would go for a walk across like the campus as if I'm getting off the subway, walking towards the building, go to Starbucks, go to Aroma, grab myself a cup of coffee, and then and it was me and my friend that would do it. We would just do this almost every single day. And it really helped us get into that zone as if we are in law, like, we are physically in the law school building. That's for my mental health. I found that extremely helpful because I just needed to not get out of bed and go directly to my computer. That doesn't feel like law school, right? You need to get out of the house, change up your environment a little bit, come back in, and you feel a little bit more human, like society is kind of normal-ish. And then I just try to block everything out and remind myself that I'm actually in law school and I'm not in my bedroom. I'm not in my living room. I never did any of my classes in bed. That's one thing I swore myself not to do throughout the year. And I didn't do it, not once. Same with being on the couch. I never sat on the couch and did law school. Like I sit directly here and make sure that like this space means I'm either working, I'm in school, I'm volunteering, I'm doing extracurriculars, I'm doing moot, whatever it is. This is my space to do it. So keeping that kind of dividing my apartment up. So I feel like there is a bit of a difference between me sitting on the couch watching reality TV and being on my computer and working.
Yeah, but in a way, I guess law school for you is like reality TV. I mean, it could be like The Circle. You never know who who is actually there. I find, but no, it's great to hear from you, and thanks for taking the time here and joining us and sharing again all of your different experiences. Perhaps do you have any final words of wisdom for my students there? I know you've given quite a bit as they look to finish up their program here and either pursue further education or to go and become licensed paralegals. Maybe you can share again from mooting, from finishing your program, from going on to law school and completing your first year, and all the work you've done in between there. And once again, thanks for taking the time and joining us.
Of course. Just to echo what I said just a few minutes ago, I think it's just remembering that bad things can happen, bad exams can come in, you'll get rejected from employers, there are tough things that happen, and just to make sure that you keep check on yourself, that obviously it can't always be perfect. I certainly know I've had really bad things happen to me, very bad timing stuff happen to me, and you can still push through. I know, like, when I competed at Oscar Cup at the year that I won, I always tell the story. I actually had a really bad fever as well. So I have really bad luck of having fevers at times when I don't need a fever. I shouldn't have a fever. So my licensing exam, I had a fever. At the Oscar Cup, I had a fever, and I was like highly medicated actually in my final round, which is probably why my eyes were so wide. So just these things happen at really bad times. So just keep pushing through. Chances are you'll probably be very successful. And it's actually, I think it was Oscar Wilde who said something about bitter trials often lead to, I can't remember the quote. Actually, I'm not going to say it. If I find the quote, I'll post it on my Instagram. How about that?
And Jen, how can people connect? I guess maybe reiterate the Lions Cup website there, but if they want to connect with you, find out a little bit more about law school, and then your sort of a transition from paralegal student at Seneca in 2016 to where you are today, what's the best way they can reach you?
Oh yeah. You can look me up by my name. So Jen Lorestani on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect. I'm happy to chat. I always make a time available to do Zoom calls with students. So you can reach me out that way. Obviously you can do Instagram, and that's just Jen Lorestani. But LinkedIn is probably, I think, the easier way to reach out. And then I can set up like a video call, and we can chat.
Sounds great. So I wish you all the best there, and enjoy your summer there, and good luck there in preparing for the Lions Cup mood. I hope my students there are ready to go. And
they're going to love the case. They'll love the case.
Looking forward. All the best, Jen. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. And Jen actually was guest 299. So on Monday, to sort of celebrate 300 people, I decided to let Roxana here host, and I'll share a bit about what I've heard from the 299 people before, as well as going to law school and practicing and teaching myself. So put myself on the other side of the shoes there, so to speak, and looking forward to talking with all of you about that on Monday. So thanks again, Jen. Thanks for everyone for watching, and have a great weekend. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice chatting. You can